Single parenting can feel like a solo journey, but it doesn't have to be. Introducing Mom Flex app, the ultimate village web app designed just for you. From financial support to community connections, Mom Flex app offers a lifeline, helping you navigate parenting with confidence. Find trusted resources, build your support network, and thrive. Because every parent deserves a village. Join the movement today. Visit momflex.org to install the app and take the first step toward a stronger, more supported you.
Every day's a battle, every step a climb, but we're standing tall, we're building our lives. Through the sleepless nights and the endless fight, we rise, we shine, we hold on tight. We are more than the labels, more than the pain, breaking the cycle, rewriting the game. Stronger together, we lift, we strive. Single parents, we rise and thrive. Beyond the struggle, we rise and thrive. Turning our pain into power, we're alive. We see you, you matter, you're strong inside. Together we shine, we rise, we thrive. Stories of triumph, stories of grace. Single parents with dreams to chase. They said we'd break, they said we'd fall, but look at us now, we're standing tall.
Welcome back to Beyond the Struggle, Rise and Thrive. I'm your host, LaFortune, and today's episode is one that touches the heart of almost every parent, and one that every child, no matter their age, should hear. This episode is called Unspoken Truth, What I Wish My Child Knew About My Struggle. Because no matter where you come from, raising children is filled with sacrifices that often remain hidden. And as parents, we protect our children from those struggles so that they can hold on to their innocence. But the truth is, those sacrifices shape everything. We hide the late night tears so they can sleep peacefully. We swallow the fears of making rent so they can feel safe at home. We go without so they can have what they need. Every parent knows this dance, the balancing act of love and survival. And every child, whether young or grown, has lived on the receiving end of sacrifices they may not even realize were made for them. Today, I want to open that curtain just a little. I want to give voice to the struggles so many parents carry silently. Struggles I have lived myself, and struggles I know so many of you have carried in your own way. This isn't about blame or regret. It's about honesty, love, and the unshakable truth that even in the hardest moments, we gave everything we had because our children were worth it. So grab your cup of coffee, tea, or whatever you like to sip on, settle in, and let's dive right in. Every parent knows what it's like to give up something for their child. Sometimes it's a meal, sometimes sleep, sometimes a dream deferred. For me, there were times when my job barely paid enough to cover rent and food. I can still remember opening the refrigerator and seeing almost nothing inside. And then figuring out how to turn that little bit into dinner that felt normal for my kids. What they didn't know was that I often went hungry so they could eat without worry. I made sure they had clothes, school supplies, and the things they needed to feel like every other child. But behind the scenes, I carried the quiet tears and the heavy fears of not knowing if we had we'll have a roof over our head the next month. And I know I'm not alone in that. Parents everywhere have been there, making impossible choices, pushing their own needs aside so their children could have just a little more security, a little more joy. Maybe for another parent, it was selling something they loved just to pay a bill. Maybe it was working a shift through the night when their body was begging for rest. Maybe it was giving up their own dreams, putting school or passion on hold because their child's future had to come first. These are the unspoken sacrifices that children rarely see. To them, it looks like everything just works out. They don't see the long hours, the skipped meals, or the silent prayers whispered while folding laundry or standing in line at the grocery store. And as parents, we don't usually tell them, not because we want credit, but because we want them to feel safe. We want them to feel like childhood is a place of innocence, not a way of survival. For me, at the time, to make ends meet, I created side hustles. I took on extra projects, said yes to every overtime shift I could get, and still, it often felt like just enough to keep us afloat, never enough to breathe. Child support barely covered the needs of one child, yet somehow I had to stretch it to cover more than that. I became an expert at making dollars do acrobatics, turning one into three, and finding ways to make not enough feel like just enough for my kids. The refrigerator often told the real story though. It wasn't that I didn't care. It was that I simply couldn't afford to feel it the way I wished I could. I had buy groceries in small amounts, but kids eat fast. And within a day or two, everything will be gone. Then I had find myself standing in front of those nearly empty shelves, strategizing how to make a little stretch until I had money again. And I know I'm not alone. That's a truth so many parents live with. The math doesn't always add up. The bills come faster than the paycheck. The needs of children grow quicker than the money in their account. So we juggle. We shift things around. We tell ourselves, if I pay this late fee, at least the rent is covered. We cut corners that our kids may never notice. Skipping a meal here, rewearing old shoes, or quietly letting go of something we needed so they could have something they wanted. And through it all, we put on a brave face because children don't just watch what we provide. They watch how we carry it. We smile so they don't see the cracks. We stand tall so they don't feel the ground shaking beneath us. We make it look effortless when really it took everything from us. Parents all over the world are doing the exact same thing every day, working themselves to the bones so their children don't feel the instability that looms behind closed doors. And then there are sleepless nights. For me, it wasn't just worry that kept me awake. It was an effort. I would sit up long after my kids were asleep, books and papers spread across the table, pushing myself to get more education, more skills, anything that could open the door to a better paying job. I knew that if I wanted to change our circumstances, I couldn't just rely on today's paycheck. I had to build tomorrow's opportunities. But even then, it wasn't easy. Imagine waking up at dawn, working all day, rushing home to cook, clean, help with homework, and then when the house is finally quiet, forcing your tired eyes to stay open to study for a test or write a paper. That was my reality. And it's the reality for countless parents who are trying to break cycles, provide stability, or simply keep their heads above water. Parenting alone adds another layer. There is no one to tag in when you are exhausted. No one to say, you rest and I will handle it. Every responsibility, every fear, every decision rests on your shoulders. And when resources are limited, that weight feels even heavier. Children, whether young or grown, often never see it. They see the smile when you hand them lunch money. They see the clothes washed and folded ready for school. They see the birthday cakes, the hugs, the laughter. What they don't see is the cost, the long hours, the exhaustion, the silent prayers whispered into the night. They don't see the parent who went to bed hungry or who pushed through bone deep fatigue because love demanded more than comfort ever could. They don't see the parent at work who goes in the bathroom to catch some Z's while trying at the same time to do their business in that bathroom. And maybe that's part of the unspoken truth. Children aren't meant to carry those burdens. Parents carry them so their children don't have to. But one day, as they step into their own adult lives, they may begin to understand the depth of what was given to them. So what do I do? And what so many parents wish our children knew? That behind every no was often a sacrifice. Sometimes it wasn't that we didn't want to give it to you. It was that we had to choose between that and keeping the lights on or making sure there was food for tomorrow. That no was never about love being absent. It was about love showing up in a different way, in stability, in shelter, in safety. That behind every tired sight was a prayer that the bills will balance this month, a prayer that you will never feel the insecurity we were carrying inside, a prayer that tomorrow will somehow be easier, brighter, more stable than today. That behind every struggle was love greater than fear. Even when we were terrified of losing it all, love pushed us to keep going. Even when exhaustion screamed louder than hope, love whispered, just one more step, just one more. You are almost there. I want my children, and I want all children listening to understand this. Parents are not perfect. We stumble, we get it wrong, and sometimes we hide too much. But what we don't hide, even if you don't always see it, is our love for you. We give everything we have, often with less than we need, often with fears in our hearts, often with tears on our pillows. But the one thing that never runs out, the one thing that never breaks down is the love that fuels it all. And maybe one day, when you are older, when you are carrying responsibilities of your own, you will understand the way we carried. And more importantly, you will feel the strength of the love that carry us through it all. I want to end with this quote that speaks to both parents and children. A parent's sacrifice is often invisible, but its impact is unforgettable. And that's the truth. The struggles may remain unspoken. The tears may have been wiped away in silence, and the fears may have never been shared out loud, but the love behind them lasts a lifetime. If you are a parent listening today, I want you to hear this. You are not alone. You are not the only one who has skipped meals, stayed up nights, or carried worries in silence just to keep going for your children. Your efforts, even if unseen, are shaping a legacy of strength and love for your children. And if you are listening as a child, whether you are still a young or grown man now with children of your own, I hope this episode gives you a deeper glimpse into what your parent carried for you. They may not have told you every single detail, and I may not have told you in this episode every single detail, but behind every moment of stability you experience was someone who sacrificed so you could stand on solid ground today. Love doesn't always look like big gesture or perfect moments like you see on those social media and Pinterest. Sometimes it looks like working overtime. Sometimes it looks like going without. Sometimes it looks like holding all together when inside you are falling apart, piece by piece, layer by layer. But always, it looks like showing up. Thank you for listening to today's episode of Beyond the Struggle, Rise and Thrive. This space is about honoring the strength it takes to survive, the courage it takes to keep going, and the hope it takes to believe in better days ahead. Until next time, keep rising, my friends. Keep striving. Keep on going. There is a light at the end of the tunnel for you. And I wish you a good day today, a better day tomorrow. Until next time, ciao now.
Every day's a battle, every step a climb, but we're standing tall, we're building our lives. Through the sleepless nights and the endless fight, we rise, we shine, we hold on tight. We are more than the labels, more than the pain, breaking the cycle, rewriting